What is your spicy take?
Ooh, I'm not going to hold back on this one. My spicy take is I don't think accelerator programs work. I think it's a broken business model, both from the point of view of the accelerator program and its investors, and especially the entrepreneurs and the founders that are going into those programs. So, and I'm going to say this, like, I am a mentor and I have been a mentor at a lot of different startup accelerators around the world. So I am speaking from experience. I know a lot of people that have been through accelerator programs as well. What people say publicly about them and what people say in private are quite different as well. So, if you look at accelerator programs, and for anyone who doesn't know what that is, like, let me just backtrack a little bit. An accelerator program is where typically they take a really early stage startup, they invest, they give them a little bit of money, they give them some office space, they give them some mentoring, usually for about 3 months. And then at the end of the 3 months, they put them in a room full of investors and they stick them up on stage and they call it a demo day. And then they go off and they hopefully raise some money and go off and build a successful business. Now, there's probably the three best accelerator programs in the world: Y Combinator, Techstars, and 500 Startups. Y Combinator is pretty widely regarded as the best of the best. So Airbnb went through Y Combinator, so did Reddit, so did Dropbox, so did DoorDash, Instacart, Stripe. There's a lot of really successful companies that have come through Y Combinator. But if we're talking about Y Combinator as being the best of the best, they have I think they've funded something like 5,000 companies have come through now. They do multiple batches a year. They get 40 to 50,000 applications per batch, and they only take the top 1.5%. Okay, so Harvard accepts 3%. So getting into Y Combinator is twice as difficult as getting into Harvard University. So that's how selective they are. Now, even though they're that selective, 50% of the companies that have gone through Y Combinator died. Okay, they got a 50% failure rate. Now, you might say, well, okay, hang on, like the normal survival rate, 90% of startups normally die. So if only 50% are dying, that's actually really, really good. But if you're taking the best of the best out of 40 or 50,000 applicants, you're taking the top 1.5%, and half of those fall over, is it actually that successful? You might also say, okay, but they're not really optimizing for survivability. What they're optimizing for is these kind of moonshots. Like, they want to build unicorns. They want to build billion-dollar businesses. They're not interested in building, profitable, 10, 20, $30 million companies and lots of them. They want to just have swing for the fences and get this all or nothing kind of approach. And that's fine. But the problem with that is that's not necessarily aligned with what most founders want. If you want to build a business and you're a founder of a tech company, you might want to be, a giant, big shot billionaire. Most of us just want to build a really, a successful company. We want financial freedom that accompanies that. You don't need $1 billion to be able to do that. And the thing is, because of the way their model works, you need to build a company worth, at least $1 billion, because you get diluted down to nothing because you've got to raise so many rounds of capital along the way to get there. So just by way of comparison, the most successful Y Combinator company by far is Airbnb. I think $60 billion or $80 billion or something. It's a massive company now. So Brian Chesky, the founder of that, he's worth personally about $9 billion. Ben Chestnut, who bootstrapped MailChimp and sold it, is worth about $5 billion. Because he owned so much more of his company when it was sold. So the accelerator model from the investor's point of view is swing for the fences. We'll take a chunk of these early stage startups. Who cares if half of them fall over? And the value that they provide is, office space, a little bit of money, some mentorship, connection. If you talk to most of the founders, though, that have been through these programs, they'll really tell you that there's two value propositions that really stick out. The first one that sticks out is they say it makes it easier to raise capital because they've got a network of investors and you've got the rubber stamp of approval. That might be important if you're building a Reddit or an Airbnb or a consumer internet play where you've got to raise a lot of money before you get to a point where you're profitable. If you're building a B2B SaaS business, though, like, the cost of building that, cost of getting to market has fallen off a cliff. It's so much lower now than it used to be. It's cheaper to start and launch a SaaS business than it's ever been in human history. And you can monetize it much faster. Like, you don't need the capital in a lot of cases. You don't need to go and pay for lots and lots of servers anymore. You just rent what you need. You don't need to hire a room full of expensive American software engineers. you can offshore that. There are a lot of, there's an army of people that know how to code all over the world that are willing to work for far less money. And there's plenty of tools and resources now that enable you to find them, recruit them, and manage them that didn't exist 10 or 15 years ago. So the value of that capital is a little more questionable. Now, you don't really want to raise capital to figure out what your business is. You want to raise capital just to grow. There's also a lot of other capital sources that have come along as too, like revenue-based finance for SaaS now is a huge thing. Stripe offers, Stripe has Stripe Capital. There is Founder Path. There's a whole lot of other revenue-based finance things. So once you've got something working and you can prove that you've got a pretty stable business model, you just want to add some more fuel to the fire. There is debt capital available that you can get fairly easily without having to spend 6 months going on this big investor roadshow and putting a pitch deck together and all that kind of stuff. You just show them the numbers and you raise the money. The value of the capital is not really that good. The other main thing that people point to is the network and the community. Now, the mentors are good, but because they take so many people in each batch now, and they take such, there's no niche focus. You will have, if you go to Y Combinator's page, and I keep talking about Y Combinator because it's widely regarded as the best of the best. Most other accelerator programs are just glorified PR exercises for big corporates and governments that want to look trendy and innovative and cool. They get very little actual value out of it. So if you go to Y Combinator's website and you look at all their portfolio companies, you will see everything from startups selling underwear to dev tools to making artificial meat out of insects to all sorts of crazy stuff. Now think about that from a mentor's perspective. Okay, if you're the person selling cool techie underwear and someone selling tools to developers, those businesses have almost nothing in common. How do you as a mentor give advice to one that is going to be relevant to the other? So it's really difficult to match the mentors up to the individual startups if you're taking such a broad approach. So even though, and they end up giving fairly general business advice, which is good, I suppose, especially if you're early on and you don't have a network and you don't really know what you're doing, fine. But because they've got such a broad approach, the value of that mentoring is not so great. Because they have such big batches, you don't get much time with the mentors now anyway. How much value is that really? So what most of the founders say is that the real value they get out of Y Combinator or out of any accelerator program are their other batchmates, the other founders that are going through the program with them, and the wider network, all the alumni, all the previous companies that have come through that as well. Y Combinator has a thing called Bookface, which is a pretty funny take on Facebook, which is their community of current and past Y Combinator founders that you get access to, and you can reach out to them. And so quite often, if aside from Airbnb and some of the earlier companies that have been through Y Combinator, most of their success stories are B2B SaaS, ironically. And most of those got their initial traction by selling their software to other Y Combinator companies. Is the value really in the mentoring and the money and the office space and all that and the demo day and everything else? Or is it just we put you in a room, we give you easier access to a whole bunch of other, smart, successful founders that you can talk to one-on-one? Hey, it's Ryan here. If you like that video, please click the like and subscribe button somewhere down there and check out the full interview right over here. Go on. Click it. You want to.